Chapter 13. If I really am a queen, then I'm gonna get myself out of here. Can't believe we finally had our smoochy smooch and then we just got kidnapped. Reuben is gonna be beside himself. I was very sore when I awoke. My mind was too fuzzy at first to recognize the smell of oil and dampness. And mold. But when I tried to sit up and a shaft of pain went shooting through me, the smells also hit. I curled over and gagged against the cold floor, less from the smell than the nausea. And that was when I realized I was lying on the floor at all, and the foggy memory of being attacked came back full force. I bolted upright, or would have if my hands weren't bound, and I realized I couldn't do much more than awkwardly struggle to an upright position.
Are you okay?
No! You guys got caught! No! What happened to you? I thought you were in custody! Guys? I started, noticing I wasn't alone for the first time. There were 3 other individuals, also bound, huddled nearby. You! How... What... What's happening?
We don't know.
They took us out of the facility early this morning and brought us here. You showed up later. They just dumped you and left.
So it's an inside job, is what you're saying. Who did?
We don't know that either. We thought it was Endgame at first. They said so. They said we were being transferred to a pickup location.
They had documentation and everything. We heard them talking to the night receptionist on our way out. She was either in on this or they completely fooled her.
It has to be Domain, right? That's who was running the experiments you 3 were a part of, yeah?
We think so. We don't know a lot of the details. They didn't exactly share information, and
She shrugged and looked away.
You can see the state I'm in. Digging into difficult systems is pretty hard. I can only go so deep before it gets to be too much. But yeah, we think it was Domain.
More surprised you know about them, to be honest.
Well, we've been working hard to get to the bottom of all this. Too hard if we're going on the fact they dragged you here, too. How the hell did they manage to grab a queen rank? Aren't you supposed to be some amazing Esper? Sneaked up on me and shoved an electroshock weapon in my ribs in the middle of the night. I guess that'll do it. And now you're here with us, Psi-suppressed and stuck. Congrats. Psi-suppressed? Oh, you would think wrongly. The restraints, I guess. I didn't feel any different, though.
I guess if you were unconscious the entire way here, you know less about the situation than we do.
That's a given. Do you know where we are?
Still in Erida, but I'm not sure exactly where.
We think they're going to stage an escape attempt. Make it look like we tried to get away and didn't make it out of the city.
How is that going to work, considering there's a record of a faux transfer?
Based on what we overheard, it seems like they're going to frame Delphine for it. Say that Delphine was involved in the experiments, not the Triad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people would buy that, because it's like, oh, the night side, the mobster side of the, domes. Makes sense to me.
They'll be blamed for the fake transfer. Probably wanted to look like Delphine promised us the chance of escape, so we'd go along with it.
Then eliminated us to clean up their mess before Endgame got involved.
Delphine's always a convenient scapegoat, especially since we're here in Cerna. Well, that part wasn't wrong anyway.
They also mentioned some senator. I think they intend to throw her under the bus, too. Not sure what they're planning where she's concerned, though.
I stared at the ground, turning it all over in my head and doing my best to not panic. The kids believed they were going to be killed. But why bring Morgan here if they were going to stage it as an escape attempt? I suppose they'd be seen as too much of a liability to just rejoin whatever experiments were ongoing since they'd escaped once. Looks like Senator Wilson wasn't that high in the chain if she was now expendable too. But then why am I here? I half muttered the words to myself.
They didn't say anything about you when they dumped you here.
Could just be planning to grab you and cart you off somewhere. Wasn't that the whole story with you that was pasted all over the news a while ago? Lots of people looking for the new queen rank.
And you got involved in this whole thing, so they may think it's too problematic to leave you alone. It seems like they're waiting here for someone else. People they're working with. I don't know who or what.
Transport out of the city. I heard them say it earlier.
So it's possible they're going to transfer you to someone else's care before cleaning up here.
Or they just decided I'm too much of a liability to not clean up as well. Or they wanted to drag me into all this so they could drag Reuben into it and tarnish their reputation by saying they sheltered someone who had ties with Delphine. Who even knew? Reuben. I hope he's okay. If these people did something to him, doesn't matter anyway. We can't do shit with our abilities suppressed. Whether they're going to kill us, move us somewhere else, or what, we can only wait for it. They flopped back, letting out a groan. Oh, I was hoping we'd at least go somewhere with good food for a while or something. This sucks. So, I'm not sure my abilities are actually being suppressed. I could still see their psi, for one. It was faint and the structure was disorganized and strange, but wasn't my ability to see psi also psi? What do you mean by that? Because the inhibitor restraints on you are the same ones they put on us. I just don't think they're working. I shut my eyes and focus on the restraints before mashing the button to turn them off. I glanced at Elisha, raising a brow. My psi was not being suppressed. You're an erratic? What is that?
An F-class with highly adaptive psi. They were a constant concern back at the lab where we were being trained. Their psi shifts around, so it's hard for normal psi inhibitors to get a proper read of it.
Oh, getting some lore on why Morgan's psi is not affected by psi inhibitors after all this time. Nice.
It means that they're immune to normal psi suppression. They had to use special restraints on erratics.
Guess these guys wouldn't have thought about something like that.
Elisha released a shaking breath and straightened, a glimmer of hope on their face again. Okay, so let's just get out of here. I know you're injured, but you can still teleport, right? I can probably... No, I'm not going. What?
We might be able to get information from these people about Gemini. We can't just leave and let them get away. Even if they don't know where Ashley is, they may know someone who does.
That's a job for Endgame or Utpal, not...
We don't have time to wait for them. You can see these people eliminate anyone who is high risk. They could scrap and wipe the entire project before we can find out where it's headquartered.
Magnus had said that too.
We can't miss this opportunity. You should get out of here. Just get the restraints off us and we'll handle it.
No, I can't just leave you here like that.
Well, your boss would probably be pissed if you just released us.
I would be angry at myself for abandoning you. I could just teleport you all out against your will if I wanted, but... Well, I've been relocated against my will before too, so I don't want to do that. I think I would much rather let the three of you choose what you want to do. Right or wrong. But that doesn't mean I'm going to just leave. Though, just so you know, I'm not really a super Esper or much of a fighter. So we should call for help.
Our nanosystems have already been disabled for years, and I bet they scrambled yours so you can't call out.
Yeah, I'm not able to access anything. In any case, we need to figure out where we are first. I can expand my sphere and get a look around.
Wait, there may be psi detectors here as a precaution. They won't read something small like you disabling those restraints. but something like a sphere expansion will trigger them. Look, if you remove my restraints, I can check where we are by going into the nanosystem and accessing things like security footage.
You said your system is disabled.
There are nanites all around us in the air that I can use to get in. Besides, it's not like we don't have internal nanites at all. They just don't connect properly to the net. And it's too difficult for me to manage wide-scale permanent reprogramming. Anyway, the psi detector shouldn't be able to detect something on such a small scale, so it's safer this way.
Alright. I focused on her restraints and disconnected them with the same ease I turned mine off. If they're doing a localized system scramble, doesn't that mean the airborne nanites will be affected as well?
Scramblers don't impact every single nanite, just enough to disrupt their internal communication and make it impossible to utilize the system normally. All I have to do is establish connections between the few unaffected nanites. It's tricky, but I can manage.
Don't overdo it, Riles.
We don't have a choice right now. I've established a connection. Trying to identify our location.
Can you send out a broadcast of some kind? Something that will catch the attention of Magnus Ulrich? He's been paying attention to this case, and he noticed your activity in the nanosystem as well as mine. Actively calling out to him might catch his attention.
I'll try it.
Oh shit! Riles! Someone's coming!
I had been so focused on Riley that I didn't even hear the voices until Leon said something. I scrambled back around, and my first instinct was to pretend I was helpless and suppressed so they wouldn't suspect anything, but something inside me just said, no. Riley, keep doing what you're doing. I let out a slow breath and stood, ripping the restraints off my arms entirely as the group of Espers came into the room. A larger group than I thought. 2 infantry, a rook, a bishop, and a knight. There might be others in the building. I wasn't sure. They stopped when they saw me. I probably did not look intimidating in a thin top and 2 big pajama pants, but nothing I could do about that. I yanked the door behind them down to the floor, preventing anyone else from joining us, but also effectively locking us in with them. I wasn't sure they quite knew how to react because there was a brief space where they just froze. Then one of the infantry yanked a sonic weapon out of his jacket and aimed at me. Well, we are not analytical. So, time to do what our girl does best. Emotionally panic and do cool things. When I saw the weapon pointing at me, my mind blanked and I panicked. Survival instinct took over. I flung my hands out, sending a wall of psi energy straight at the group, slamming them into the door with a resounding metallic thud. Then I wrapped my psi around them and slammed every one of them face first into the floor. I ripped the weapon away from the infantry, and using my sphere to identify several other hidden weapons, I also tore those away and flung them across the room. I stood there panting and staring at the pile of humans on the ground. One groaned. The instant I saw him shift and try to sit up, I let out a yelp and picked them all up, slamming them back into the wall twice. And then onto the ground again. And stay dead! Die, bugs! That is what she's saying! Oh my goodness. At some point, I think I realized I was doing the equivalent of that thing where you stomp on a spider several times to make sure it stays dead. Good job, girl. Except that I didn't actually want to kill anyone. I retracted my sigh, body tensed in case anyone tried to get up again. There were some groans, but not a lot of movement. So they were alive, anyway. I realized that behind me, the trio was very quiet. I glanced back to 3 sets of wide eyes.
Wow. Think they're going to be able to answer any questions after that?
I mean, they're not dead?
That doesn't mean they're alright.
I was trying to ignore the fact that I was pretty sure that somewhere in all that I felt some bones break. Hey, this means you're Batman, girl, it's fine. I'd been too panicked to realize it at the time. In fairness, they did abduct 4 people and point a gun at us. So, maybe we should restrain them while they're unconscious? I hope they're unconscious after all that anyway.
Yeah, fair. I disabled and removed their restraints and let them handle that. There was one more of them than we had pairs of restraints, but Leon and Elisha elected to leave the Rook bound with normal restraints. Interesting. I would think you would want to leave the infantry unrestrained, but anyway. Even if he could break them, injured as he was the least threatening. When one of the infantry tried to fight back, they got a kick to the face that made me have to look away. And that was that. I was about to check for others in the building when there was a strange drop in temperature, a twist in space. Oh, nice of you to join us. They brought Reuben! Yay! Oh, thank goodness. I will jump into his arms. And a group of mostly familiar people appeared out of thin air. Reuben! He half collapsed as soon as solid ground was under him, but an unfamiliar woman in a black and white uniform kept him upright. Good job, Vaughn. I rushed to his side, helping lower him to the floor. Are you okay?
Are you?
We're all fine. I was about to search for others in the building and...
One of our backup teams is chasing down a few people who appear to have fled the premises. Ari didn't see anyone else in the building. Also, what the hell actually happened here?
I glanced toward the injured and now restrained Espers, only to see Leon, Riley, and Elisha, all three pointing out me.
Caleb's like, damn, Leone.
Hilarious.
What did you do?
I panicked.
I think it's technically called kicking the shit out of someone.
While screaming.
I didn't scream.
She definitely screamed.
This is the thanks I get. There was some screaming, I agree. You know what? Whatever. Can you please tell us what's going on?
I've informed the medical unit we will be needing their services since no one else seemed inclined to do so.
Ari's just like, you know, these guys could probably use a doctor, so I'm just gonna go and order one of those.
Thanks. Anyway, you four seem okay, I guess. So that's good. Looks like Domain tried to clean up their little mess and underestimated what they were up against.
Were they intending to clean me up too?
We aren't sure, but we think this was a last-ditch effort to cover up the situation. They may have just considered you a freebie. I'm sure these idiots can fill in the details. Once they're conscious again, of course. I imagine that since they didn't realize Endgame has been involved in this case for a while, Domain thought they still had time to do damage control. They staged a transfer of these three, and...
Yeah, the others filled me in on that. They suspect the plan was to push the blame to Delphine.
Seems about right. The Triad loves doing that shit. How exactly did you end up here? I woke up to a noise and...
I got up for some water and someone was in the flat. There was an electroshock weapon involved. I had the worst headache, by the way.
That why you decided to break some arms?
No, it was the whole armed abduction thing, actually.
Fortunately, you had your wits about you.
Sure, let's go with that. Definitely wasn't panic. Listen, it seems like they were waiting on a transport out of the city, so if that's not who your standby team is chasing, you may want to keep an eye out for that.
That appears to be who they are chasing. In any case, Magnus has this entire area under surveillance, since Ari, Vaughn, and I mobilized. Seems like he heard someone send out some sort of message in the nanosystem.
I shot Riley a smile. I guess that had worked.
I also got your message. That's how Paul got involved. I'm just impressed these idiots underestimated you so badly they couldn't conceive of an ending where a queen rank beat the shit out of all of them.
In fairness, I wouldn't have conceived of that either.
Vaughn, we're going to leave you here for a few minutes. Medical unit is asking for assistance. Ari? Of course.
And the two of them were gone in an instant, leaving our group with Vaughn, who was poking at one of the unconscious infantry. Poke, poke.
Winter. Yes, we're inside. Situation is contained. Endgame is sending a medical unit. There are injured. No. Not Morgan, nor the other three.
He nodded to me and stepped away as he continued to talk. Hey, girl.
Well. So you're the little queen those two tried to bring home a few weeks ago. I wasn't sure I'd get the chance to meet you with how things are going. I've heard a lot about you three, too. Looks like you've all been through a time of it.
Riley looked away and didn't answer her. It occurred to me that the three of them could have tried to run, but were still there. Vaughn gave Riley a sad smile as she set a hand on her shoulder.
We might be a little late this time, but we're going to get all this wrapped up soon. I promise.
I was surprised she was being so careful with them, smiling, reassuring them. They were tense, of course, but despite not seeming entirely trusting of her, there was also relief. That hadn't gone as smoothly as planned, but I suppose the outcome wasn't as terrible as it could have been. Well, look who's here. Hello.
Excellent work, everyone.
What the? I hadn't realized Ari was back, with several other people.
Ugh, what are you doing here?
I watched as a small group of agents in white and blue coats shot past us into the group of restrained Espers on the ground.
He recalled me during the medical pickup and asked me to transport him here for a follow-up. I made a detour. And Mara let you? I did not ask her permission. Hey, do you know how much ranting I'm going to have to listen to tonight? Do you care what you are putting your teammate through? And what have we told you about listening to Magnus anyway? You should know better. Also, you're going to feel terrible tomorrow if you keep hopping all over the damn globe like this. It's hardly the first time I have brought Magnus here. Okay, sure, there was one other... It was twice. What? It was twice. You were unaware of the second time. You... Ari! You should know better than that!
Anyway, thank you for entertainment, but we do still have some work to do here.
Poor Ari. I felt my headache getting worse. Was this really what Endgame was like? Oh no, they're much worse, trust me.
How exciting. I didn't expect to meet again this way, Morgan. We've retrieved our 3 wayward children and picked up a few individuals I'm very much looking forward to questioning. How lovely. It didn't quite go as planned, but then these things never do.
Magnus smiled as he joined Vaughn where she was talking to Leon and the others.
Now you 3 I've heard a great deal about. I've been keen to meet you. Especially you. Riley, was it?
His eyes lingered on her silver hair and eyes, the smile fading.
You've had a difficult time, haven't you?
Are you really Magnus Ulrich?
In the flesh, even. It's not as impressive as it sounds.
The facility we were...
Now. We will have time to go through all of that. We already have people on it, and as soon as you give us a few details, we can mobilize right away. I understand there's someone you are trying to find. Despite what you may believe, we can be quite reliable in situations like this. Vaughn, will you make sure we get their information to the Moirai right away? Lethe is waiting to hear from you.
Lethe, that's right.
Alright, come on. Ari?
Wait, what's going to happen to them now?
We don't care about that. We just want...
Of course you should care about it. People not caring what happened to you is why you all ended up here. Never let anyone tell you that you shouldn't care about your own fate, so long as the situational outcome is what you want. There are those of us who live like that. But the 3 of you are far too young for such a bleak outlook on life. What happens to you matters. Do not forget that. Ever.
Good on you, Magnus. They looked as surprised as I was by those words. He nodded to Vaughn, and she and Ari led Leon and the others away. I watched for a moment, until they all vanished. Reuben moved closer to me, and though his arm didn't go quite around me, I was still grateful for the warmth of his hand against my back.
Congratulations, Morgan. Looks like it's finally over. We'll get your trio back to Corsolaris for now, but I assure you they'll be fine. And as for the others...
He glanced at where the medical team was working on the people I'd kicked the shit out of.
We'll be taking them to Corsolaris as well. I expect it's time we give the perpetrators of all this a good slap on the wrist. They've been exceptionally naughty of late, haven't they? What's actually going to happen to those kids? I don't want to see them in the field as agents in the future, Ulrich. No. I believe those three have done more than their share of fighting. But I do have a plan. After all, you have a friend who might be more than happy to find a place for them in a quiet dome where they can be able to live in peace.
Hell yeah, let's do it! Let's start sending Espers to Nisa again! Magnus is like, I can work with Nisa. Nisa is actually a great plan. We can just open up training facilities over there, get Espers out of Endgame, send them over there where they have some freedom and they don't have to start working for us. That's great. I'm all for this. This is a great resolution.
With a little supervision, of course. And after we locate their friend, she will join them. It would be nice if we could restore some of what they've lost, but they will be unable to go back to how things were. It's always like that for people like us. Isn't that right, Morgan?
Yes, it is. And Ari was back. I sensed him pop back in right behind us.
I'll be in touch with you, Morgan. I suppose your role in exposing the magnitude of this case may not earn you friends in other high places. But it will earn you enough public recognition. I don't imagine the Council will be able to push the issue of you joining Endgame. Without your involvement, the case would never have got to this point. It has not only revealed a devastating public secret, but also the suffering of many Espers and how they're treated. Used. If the Council is smart, they will stand down lest their own sins be brought to light. After all this, that would be absolutely devastating for Endgame, of course. And now I believe I've held up our illustrious guard long enough. Our retrieval unit has arrived. Ari? Of course. Vanessa assured me they would ride back with the retrieval unit. Looking out for you as always, I see. How kind.
Magnus nodded to us, and the two of them were gone as well. With them gone, and the other unit still fussing over the captured Espers, Reuben decided it was now okay to pull me into a trembling hug. I sank into him, biting my lip hard to keep from losing it.
Do you know how scared I was when I woke up and realized you were gone?
I can imagine. My voice was hoarse as I tried to speak around the growing lump. Reuben pulled away and gave me a long, serious look.
Are you sure you're okay?
I'm okay. It's a lot to take in, but I'm okay. A message popped up, and I realized that my nanosystem was back online. I pulled away from Reuben, frowning.
What is it?
A message from that woman, Vanessa. Just a goodbye note from Riley and the others. And a thank you.
They probably have some rough times ahead.
But I think they'll be okay.
Surprisingly, I think they will too.
Please tell me it's really over this time.
Not quite. We do have more reports to write.
Damn it! All I wanted was a glass of water, and now I have more reports to write after beating people up. That isn't fair.
Well, you might not have to do it right away. At the very least, we need to get you checked out. You look... Hey! You two!
Hi, Winter. Did you, speed all the way here? And now another familiar face was racing into the room and straight for us.
Here we go.
I slipped my arm around his waist, looking at the light creeping into the fading artificial night outside. After this, I think we deserve a break. A proper one.
Most definitely.
Winter reached us, his face somehow torn between worry and anger as we filled him in on everything that happened. Hopefully soon I would get the chance to spend one whole day in bed. It was just a pity Reuben's place didn't have a bathtub, or a bubble bath would have been in order too. I hoped that this case was finally closed. Or at least my part was. And Riley, Leon, and Elisha too. I hoped we would all have a chance to move on now.